Family greetings, welcome back to my channel. I have some breaking news to share with you coming to you from the island of Jamaica. Family, world-renowned Jamaican blogger Sir P has recently revealed that the Chinese mechanic shop, which recently opened in Jamaica, has been shut down. Family, I know it's a shock. I know you've seen the videos of Chinese people working like you've never seen them working before. Family, we know that in our traditional mechanic shops, there's usually one mechanic or two mechanics working on a vehicle. But we saw that the Chinese mechanics had 7 individuals working on one car. Right? We saw that persons were lining up from before the sunrise just to get a chance to get service at this Chinese mechanic shop. But Sir P is reporting that there were a few indiscretions that the Jamaican government recently uncovered. Okay, apparently many of these persons who were working on those automobiles did not have a passport. Many of these persons who were working on those automobiles did not have a work permit. Many of these people could not speak English and were basically new arrivals to Jamaica. Family, why is this a problem? See, the thing is, every other nationality is vigorously screened so that the government is able to determine if they have a right of abode, if they have a right to be in the country. And I believe that because of investment, because of their business presence, oftentimes Chinese restaurants and businesses are outside of the scope of immigration raids, outside of the scope of immigration checks. You know, the perception is if they are working inside there, that they had to have gotten status through the proper channels. All right, but this was not the case with the new Chinese mechanic shop. We found that persons were without documents, without status, operating on vehicles. And so this obviously means that they couldn't really show their professional certification. They weren't able to show that they actually qualified to provide these services. Right? And time alone will tell if the vehicles they repaired so far were repaired up to standard. But all indications are that persons were happy with the service, the time it took to get their car repaired. People were remarking about the wonderful waiting area that has comfortable chairs and tables for persons to wait. But family, I just wanted to weigh in on this situation. I attempted to make a video about this and I ended up with 17 minutes. So I'll try to give like a scaled down version of what I was trying to say. Initially, I had compared this situation to having a large aquarium or a large tank filled with small fish. And then you have a person come along and you throw a shark into this tank with the other small fish. And ultimately, the shark is going to eat all of the small fish and only the shark will remain. Okay, and this is my impression of what is happening with the Chinese mechanic shop. Obviously, these persons would have come from a highly industrialized society. They would have access to capital. They would have access to equipment that most persons in our region, especially small mechanics, wouldn't be able to actually operate or wouldn't be able to actually acquire, right? And so we know that they would be entering the mechanic arena with a structural, or I would say a strategic advantage. All right, they're able to connect themselves with Chinese automotive companies. that will able to give them the technology and all of the up-to-date equipment that will allow them to be ahead of all of the competition in Jamaica. We know that many other ethnicities and nationalities operate in the Caribbean. Americans, British persons, Russians, Germans, all of these different nationalities operate in our region, right? But my take on all this, I believe that Caribbean countries really need to put some restrictions on how much foreign presence can be allowed in domestic economies. Okay, I look at the situation taking place with Carnival Cruise Lines and Disney owning keys in the Bahamas, and I'm sure they own keys close to many other Caribbean countries, right? And this is not to insult anybody that is in the government at this time, but what I would say, I think it was a mistake to allow companies that operate in the tourism sector to own properties in a country that depends on tourist arrivals, stopover visitors, persons who will stay beyond um, a day, persons who will stay for an extended period of time, like a week, 2 weeks. We are highly dependent on stopover tourism because these individuals will be in our country spending money at the restaurants, spending money with the taxis and the car rental companies, casinos, etc. But when you allow a foreign entity to set up shop, hire its own employees, some local, some foreign, and basically operate a hotel, this is taken away from the domestic economy. This is taken away from the bread and butter of these countries, you know. And when hotel occupancies begin to dwindle, we know that these persons who are going to the Disney and the Carnival Cruise Lines hotel property will be cut off from um, even the main islands because persons would prefer to actually stay at a property that is controlled by a world recognized brand. So Disney, Carnival, etc. These types of companies, if they operate a hotel property, American tourists and tourists from other English speaking countries in particular will definitely gravitate to those properties as opposed to staying on the main island, which is now being portrayed as being dangerous by the travel advisories. And so, family, allowing more presence of foreign companies in our domestic economies will put a strain on local labor. And what I was trying to say in my previous video is that I believe the labor movement should play a greater role in discussions about these types of operations being set up. We can't have the local union community being undermined by these types of actions. We saw where sociologists like Walter Rodney actually highlighted the way that foreign labor and the influx of foreign entities into our countries have been used to basically diminish the impact of the labor movement, diminish the impact of their strike activities or any other labor action. Okay, and so family, this is what I wanted to update my subscribers about. The Chinese mechanic shop has been shut down in Jamaica. It is no longer operational. According to Sir P, it may actually commence operations if they are able to present a staff that has the legal documents to actually work in the country. But family, let me know your thoughts in the comments below about all these dynamics. One love.